welcome to He Said, She Said. How are you,
Oh,
Tommy?
good. How are you doing?
Good. It's been a while. We've had a little bit of a hiatus.
Yes.
And
We have a
tonight,
special-
well, we've been busy, right? It's been kind of crazy and traveling, and you're working out and getting all buff and cool and whatever. And so it's all working fabulously. And our third person in the room tonight is none other than Carter Buschardt. Carter, welcome back.
Thank you. What's been a year?
Yes, I think.
Or worse, or
Yes.
longer?
Yes.
Yeah. I know you're not talking to me when you're talking about getting buff.
You too. You're awesome. You're awesome. But yeah, last time we had you on, we had a radio show then, and then we kind of ditched the radio show because it was a little too much to be, conforming to every week at a certain time.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and did this. This just works so much better for us because we just do it. We were really hitting them out, and then we've kind of been lax over the summer because I think we've just been super busy. So thank you for being our first person after hiatus to be on the show. This is fun.
It's awesome.
It did.
Yes.
But I've written 2 books since I saw you.
I know, and that's what we want to talk about. So tell us about them, because the first one came out. Oh, it was shortly after I think we had you on our radio show. So that was
Yeah.
Evidence of an Enigma. Oh
Yeah.
God, I just can't talk
And the
tonight.
second one is Sasquatch of an Enigma too. Pretty
Yeah.
darn creative, don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. The story just continues.
Yeah, yeah. But after the first book, people came out of the woodwork
Yeah.
and created the second book. I mean, and the stories in the second book are mind blowing. Some of them, missing time, 6 hours of missing time with Sasquatch, and trees being uprooted and flown into the sky. And I mean, the people have come out of the woodwork, and I've vetted most of them. So,
Yeah, so you know.
and, they're having quantum, paranormal, abstract events that can't, it goes by the way, the flesh and blood goes by the wayside. I mean, and you just have to decide if that's even possible, or if you believe it, and these people don't want any attention. They don't want any money. They don't want their name anywhere, their location. They don't want anything. They just want to get it off their chest,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I wrote the second one, because there's some odd stuff going on.
Yes.
And hundreds and hundreds and probably thousands of people are having the same odd events, other than the, rather mundane but still exciting road crossings, or one was standing across the creek watching me while I was fishing, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it just spurred the second book. And so that's what I've been doing, is talking to these people and putting the books together.
Mm-hmm. And how fun is that?
How does that fly?
It's also fun. I mean, I've met some and talked to some very awesome people. I mean, and the stories. I'll have to mail you a book.
Oh, I'm going to order one. You know what? I've been so discombobulated the last few months, as Tommy knows, because I haven't even really chatted with you, Tommy. It's just been kind of a vacuum.
Yep.
But
Well, now I just signed a book deal with Beyond the Fray Publishing. And so they're going to take my 2 books and repackage them. I'm adding new material. I've already finished adding material to the first book, and they're going to have a new title. And I'm working on the second book, adding more material for that. So they're going to have new title, new artwork, and new material inside of both. And so that's what I'm working on right now. Plus, trying to still work reports and stuff.
yeah, that's awesome.
The organization he was with before, how do they think about the things that are going on with the paranormal and the quantum and all that stuff?
as you probably are aware, there are two camps, flesh and blood and everybody else. And, I have not gotten a lot of flack, which I thought I might, because I think there's an undercurrent of belief that there is more to it than the flesh and blood can explain, and so I have not gotten a lot of grief, actually, that which I sort of expected. I don't do the festivals and the Sasquatch conventions. I don't do any of that kind of stuff because, I find it to be, counterproductive because everybody has something to sell. Everybody has something, they want to convey some knowledge or philosophy or theory, and that's all well and good. I'm all for sharing that, but it just, to me, it gets in the way of things. It kind of turns it into showbiz, and I don't want to go there, in the showbiz thing and look at me, I'm speaking here, I'm speaking there. That's all good and that's all flattering if you can impart knowledge, but it's a clash of philosophies. And so I just don't do those conventions, nothing wrong with them. I just don't do them. I'd rather be out in the field doing stuff.
Me too. And I think, Tommy, you're of the same mind, right?
I like to do them all.
Well, I think they're fun, but let me tell you, for the first few years that Squatchers were together, I mean, we did do a lot of them. I mean, we were in Kansas City, Carter. That's where we met you, and we did CryptidCon a couple of years, and we were always at Paracon, and now what we like to do, Carter, is we like to go to different small towns in Minnesota. And we do a Squatch chat. And so the people who are really interested in Bigfoot come and tell us their stories, which is so fun, know, and that seems to work for us.
Mm-hmm. Well, I did a town hall here in Independence a couple of years ago, and I'm doing the Spirit Fest, which is sort of the paranormal conference for this year. They called it Paracon last year. This year it's called Spirit Fest. And so it's the same thing, I'm the only Bigfoot guy there. They've got, the healers and the shamans and the psychics and all that stuff there. And I'm doing a presentation there, so it's for 2 days. So that'll be intriguing. It's like-minded people, but everybody's got their own little niche.
Yes.
And so I don't think there's anybody going to get their toes stepped on,
Yeah.
UFO people are there, all that kind of stuff.
Gene Walker, maybe, I'm guessing.
Yeah, actually she is. Yeah. And there's some people there I have not heard of, but it's I think it's September 10th and 11th.
And is it in Kansas? Is it in Kansas City?
Yeah, Independence, but
Independence. Okay. Yeah.
Where I met you, I think. Well, last time that was at on Eastwood Trafficway at the
it was right
Ararat Shrine, the Shrine Temple.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's where it was.
This one is at a Masonic lodge. It's the same,
Yeah. Tommy, did you have a question?
I have to ask you, like in your goings around and your studying and all this stuff, who do you think are actually the bad guys? Who do you think is trying to keep this knowledge from us? What organization do you think it is?
Government, paper companies, lumber companies, science in general. And here's the whole thing. If these are only a dumb ape that we just happen to have missed, why hide it? There's something else going on, because that is, in the scheme of things, relatively unimportant. They're discovering new creatures every day, every week, every month in science, fish, birds, fowl. They're discovering new insects. There's something new so why hide this if it's not something else? So what if we missed a chain in the link of the great apes and the hominids? So what if we missed one? Okay, we admit it, there it is, and it's over, we move on. But there's something else going on. And what some of these people are telling me tells me that there is something else going on. They're coming up with stuff that is just mind-boggling. You know, not that just seeing a squatch is mind-boggling, but I guarantee you the government knows exactly. They lied to us about UFOs for 80 plus years. And oh, guess what? Now there are UFOs all of a
Yeah.
sudden.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wow. And that revelation that the report they released was a much ado about nothing. You know, there was nothing in there. It was all just a bunch of double talk, really. So they told us a bunch of nothing. Well, but they admitted that there is something going on after lying about it for 80 years and traumatizing people who have had these events. It's going to be the same with Sasquatch. It's going to be DNA and technology that gets it. But I guarantee you the government knows all about it, and they're going to come up with some cockamamie story. They're trying to protect us and save us, you know, from these, you know, bad people. But you know, really, the bad people is the government and science. You know,
Yep.
I firmly believe that till I go to my grave that you know they know, and they just don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
Knowledge is power.
Yes. And what was it that got you into this? Or did you have an event that happened to you or something that really got you going on this?
You know, not really. I've been looking into it for a long, long time because I was a musician. I was on the road. I didn't have time, but it was always an interest, you know. And my wife and I went to Washington State, oh, about 13, 14 years ago. And I found one of those geocache boxes. You know, remember that geocache? I think people still do that.
Yeah.
I just found one yesterday, as a matter of
Yeah.
fact.
Tommy just
Yeah,
found
and I
one
found it
yesterday.
by accident. I went around a tree to take a leak, and there was this ammo box, and in the ammo, so I opened it with much trepidation because I thought, well, maybe I found somebody's drug stash and it was booby trapped.
Right.
So
That's exactly.
I was literally standing around a tree with a twig and poking at it and making sure. So I finally just opened it, and inside this box was a card from a BFRO investigator from Washington State. And so I took his card. You know, on the geocache, you have to take something and leave something. So
Yeah.
I left something in there. I took his card and I called him and said, "How do I get involved in this? This is exactly what I'm looking for." And he got me in touch with people here in Missouri that I hooked up with. And 12 or 13 years later, here I am, you know, writing books and doing Bigfoot research. Uh, and I've talked to probably 300 plus witnesses, have had almost 100 reports published to BFRO. So it's not like I haven't done my homework. And all I thought I was doing was just taking reports, typing them up, turning them in, and that was it. I move on to the next report. Well, people start going, well, after I tell you this, I got something else I want to tell you. So they tell you the report, and then they say, I've got something else. And then they go into this off the wall, you know, paranormal, quantum, abstract skill sets. It just vanished in front of me. I heard mind speak. It called my name. You've heard the stories, hundreds and hundreds of them.
Mm-hmm.
And so that, and when I've led 4 expeditions for BFRO, and on one of them, 2013, I watched one vanish, literally just poof on my thermal camera. I was watching one on thermal camera. It came around a corner, 1 step, 2 steps, boom. It just flat out disappeared. It just like the heat signature just vanished, and there was like an outline, like somebody had blown a Sasquatch smoke ring. So it just popped, like it was like a pop, like a flash bulb, and then the smoke just kind of dissipated and it went away. It was gone. And I was standing there in front of some very narrow-minded folks, so I kind of kept it to myself. I talked to a couple of guys later, you know, that night after. I said, "You're not going to believe what happened." And I told them. We went and reenacted it. But basically, that got me from, well, flesh and blood, okay, you know, the banging on trees and whooping and hollering and all that, to like, there's something else going on. There is something else going on, and I went to the dark side. There's something else going on here. My camera did not malfunction. I wasn't stoned or drunk. that creature just flat out vanished. I don't think it knew we were there when it came around the corner. It cloaked, shut itself off, whatever it did. And that was my aha moment. So that's what got me on this journey, and a journey it is, because it is just incredible. And so after the first book, all these people just started coming out of the woodwork, and that really, most of the second book is all the people that reacted to the first book of all the things they've been experiencing. And it's staggering, the stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what to say about it. It's just like there is an undercurrent, I think, of belief, even with the flesh and blood people, that there is something going on, and I've got to, because their research is at a dead end.
Yeah.
And so you don't have to, say, well, I don't believe that. I'm going to consider almost everything you throw at me until you or I come to a conclusion that evidence is good or bad, or maybe I'll put it on the back burner and I'll come back to it. But you can't just discount it outright. It's not fair, to the public, to the witnesses.
Absolutely.
UFOs at the same time, right? People who have seen Sasquatch seems to have also seen UFOs, right? Have you found that too, Carter? Not that the UFOs have anything to do with the Sasquatch, I don't think, but
it's possible, because I have about 4 habituation properties that I monitor, and I go out and visit them. They have all mentioned seeing orbs, mostly blue, craft right before or right after sightings. Not always, but just enough. The guy that I had up in the Northeast, that had 6 hours of missing time when a Sasquatch came walking at him. And this is a good story. He lives out in the middle of nowhere, and I can't give his location. And he was adding on to his house, because he and his wife had a small cabin. They had a kid and had another one on the way. So he was adding on to the house. She moved out of the house and moved in with her parents because she was pregnant at the time. And so he was there running his company, that in the evening he would run the construction crews and just kind of be the general contractor. And he was putting tools and everything away one night, and he has a 110-pound German Shepherd trained attack guard dog, and he goes with him everywhere. He hears something, and he sees the Sasquatch walking towards him, not in a threatening way, just kind of walking at him, just taking his time, walking right at him. So he grabs the rest of the tools he has, goes and throws them in the house, and he runs to the travel trailer that he was staying in while they were working on the house, because all the electricity's off. So him and the dog run into the travel trailer. They lock the door, like that's going to stop a Sasquatch.
right?
Realizes he didn't grab
Right?
his pistol, so he goes through the kitchen. He finds a carving knife. So he locks himself and the dog in a bathroom. And you know how big a bathroom is in a travel trailer. It's room for maybe 2 people.
Yeah.
He is standing there with a knife, this carving knife, and he's holding it, pointing it at the door, waiting for this creature to come in. This was about 11:30. Next thing he knows, it's 5:30 in the morning.
Oh,
He is still in this position with a knife, and the dog is asleep next to him, sitting up. Dogs don't sleep sitting up. It was in a kind of a trance. And the next thing he hears is the construction guy showing up. So he stands up, and he feels completely refreshed. If you sit in one spot for 6 hours, you're going to be really tight, and you got to kind of stretch and move around. And he was tensed up. He felt like refreshed, like he felt great. Not like he'd been sitting in the same spot for 6 hours, but he had 6 hours of missing time. And I suggested to him that he go and get some regression hypnosis, which I've been under 4 times to find out. And right now, he agrees that's what he needs to do, but he doesn't want to find out.
Oh.
He doesn't want to know what happened. Stuff like that. And that is strictly, I mean, if you look at it on the surface, that is strictly UFO type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But if these creatures can come and go from different dimensions, different portals, if they can cloak themselves, they got something going on we don't. And and I think some of those skill sets are why the government doesn't want to tell us what's going on, among other things. They lied about UFOs. They're going to lie about Sasquatch till they just can't.
Yeah.
So that's my belief system at this point, because there's just too many people are coming to me now. I've got another book I'm working on because there's so much stuff coming out. I'm just going, oh my gosh, I got to do it. I can't just sit on it. I'll put it out there and let the public decide. And like I say, I don't believe necessarily everything, but I consider it, because there's just something up. There's something going on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Tommy, how do we sound from your end? Can you hear an echo?
No, I can hear real good.
Oh, good. Okay, because I scooted back and I, Jason will edit all this out, but I scooted back and I'm just holding my microphone because I'm away from the computer speaker and my phone, but this works. So Carter can hear you and it's all working and no feedback. So, okay, that works. So we're good.
All right.
We figured it out, guys.
So have you encountered anything of that nature before out in the woods, or, because I've encountered stuff like that after the fact, after I got into this, I have some research areas and they know who I am, and I go out there and I can have short conversations. I can ask them to react, let me know they're there, and they do. And I told one night I went out and I said, all my equipment is right here in my case. I'm not taking it out. I just want to interact with you. I'm not going to put any cameras out. I'm not going to do any recording, nothing. I just, I'm sitting here by the fire drinking. Come talk to me. Come do something. And I hear little bits of chatter and little twigs and stuff being thrown at me and rocks. And so they're there. I heard some very weird hyena-like laughing, which I thought was amazing. So they're there. They're out there. They're doing things. They're communicating with people, and some people are chosen,
Oh, yeah.
I've met a guy that through the first book, he's been going through stuff for 40 to 50 years up in Canada.
Wow.
Him and his dad. And his dad has passed away. And he has told me some incredible stories that, he's 40 years though.
Wow. That's a long time.
It is just, of course, as a researcher or investigator, I have to sit there and go, is he yanking my chain? Because it's easy, because I'm talking on the phone. I don't know him from anybody,
Right.
But he corrects me on little bitty things, when you're interviewing people, and I recorded probably about 30 hours of our conversations, and 3 of the stories at the end of this book are his, and they will blow your mind, and you just, even I'm going, okay, I've got to take an extra breath here and figure out if he's hallucinating, and that's a possibility, but it's not. And when his dad died, which was I think 7 or 8 years ago, his dad said, he used to always tell his son, no, that's not what you think it is. That's something else. You're mistaken. He finally told him, everything you thought you saw, you did. Everything you thought you heard, you did. And he goes, I know, Dad. And so that was, a deathbed confession, so to speak. Not that that proves anything, but it's just,
Totally
it should
awesome.
be nothing else than it was, because he was very specific in the descriptions of the beings, and there's two main beings that have been coming to him. And the cover of, and what I didn't know, which is, it's synchronicity at its finest. The drawing on this cover, I picked it at the last minute for that book because I just didn't like my cover. Sibylla Irwin, you know who Sibylla is? She's an artist. She has done hundreds and hundreds of these drawings. And mostly she's kind of like a police sketch artist. If somebody has an event, she will draw and then show them what they have described, and it's usually pretty darn dead on. So I asked her, I said, do you have anything else? Because I don't like the cover I picked. So do you have something? She said, I just got this one in. I just drew this for a guy. And it was this creature.
I love it.
That's the creature that has been visiting him for 40 to 50 years. Wow. And I had just randomly picked that picture for the cover of the book. And when he saw it, he went, that's why he called me. Because he heard me doing another podcast. And so he heard the podcast. And so he looked up the book and went, oh my God, I got to call this guy. That's my creature. And so we nicknamed him Zap because he's been zapped several times, a couple of times into unconsciousness by this creature. And the female that comes with him, we've called her Barry. And I don't know why I picked that name, but they've come and visited him numerous times, and they will appear right in front of him. They will appear right behind him, like in flesh and blood, but they just appear and then they just disappear. You just still have to wrap your head around that. Is this guy seeing or hallucinating? So I did enough research just for me to be dangerous that you really can't hallucinate unless you're on drugs, unless you have schizophrenia or paranoid schizophrenic. Those are the two classic, mental maladies that can cause you to actually see things that aren't there. You see lions and tigers or a gorilla or a bear or, a monster coming in your window. If you have those afflictions, you can hallucinate. But other than that, you have to be on drugs or this has to really be happening.
You're right. Yes.
And so, yeah, but this one here has stories, and I mean, it speaks of 100-foot trees being uprooted and shot up into the sky and coming down and almost capsizing a canoe he's rowing. I mean, he had a girlfriend with him. He's lost many girlfriends over this stuff because it happens when they're there, and he doesn't tell them anything about it. Then all of a sudden, noises, things start moving in the house, disembodied voices, which is Zap and Barry talking to him. Yeah. And they go, I'm out of here. I mean, they don't embrace that.
How is the Bigfoot phenomena? It's worse than a haunting? Is it not worse than a haunting? What's the difference between?
Because you're talking about
nothing. Probably not a lot.
Right.
I mean, because if you see a ghost, well, that's a haunting. A Sasquatch is, for some people, a ghost, or it's not a real thing. It's a disembodied thing. So the ghost is a wisp of something. It is a mist and a wisp. It is not a solid creature. The Sasquatch are solid, rock solid, and you can see them, and you could probably reach out and touch them. I think that's the only difference, but the effect on people is the same.
Right.
It's the same thing. Oh my God, I just saw a ghost.
Yeah.
Yep.
And since, God, there's so much has happened. Gosh dang it. I led an expedition for BFRO in 2019 in Illinois. And since then, I have had about a year and a half of stuff at our house going on here that is very bizarre. My wife, at the time I was having a Sasquatch event in Illinois, she saw a blue orb in our bedroom, and I was 300 miles away. Coincidence? Possibly, but she saw, not only was it, she saw it physically, like it was floating right in front of her and it's floating around the room. She also saw it reflected as she was looking at it in the mirror. So it was a real thing. It wasn't a light coming in from the curtains from a car or anything. I mean, she saw it like here and she saw it over there. And so, and that was within an hour or two of an experience I had down in Southern Illinois. Coincidence? I don't really believe in coincidences. I've got a list of things that I've been keeping a kind of a record for the last year of all the weirdness that has been going on in our home. Some of it is explainable. Some of it is not. Knocks on the door. Disembodied voices saying, "We're here." My wife had a pillow yanked out from under her head while she was sleeping. I had hands, I felt like 3 or 4 hands under each of my legs while I was in bed, slowly pulling me to the side off the bed. And it was real. Now, my wife thinks, well, maybe it was lucid dreaming, but you just add all the weirdness, lights flickering, and it could be something else entirely. We could have spirits here in the house. We could, but either way, that's awesome in and of itself. And we've had some things going on before I got into the Sasquatch field here in the house. In fact, in this office right here, the closet, our daughter stayed here for a while, and she heard the closet doors opening and the hangers being rattled back and forth in the closet. So there is some high strangeness going on here, but it really amplified in the last year and a half. And I went back, that was 2019, October. I went back a year to the day, October 2020, and I met my partner there. And the expedition was small. There was only 4 people that came to the expedition, and then myself and my partner. So there were 6 of us all together. We went back to visit the scene of a very interesting event, which I won't go into. It takes way too long to tell it. But when we went back one year to the day, and this was during COVID, when nobody's out doing anything, we went back and found all the trees that had been pushed over. We found everything, and so I thought I wanted to see it in the daylight. So I took a couple of cameras and left them just in case I catch something. We only stayed for 2 days, so I spent the night. We went back. I went back the next morning to get my cameras before I headed back to Missouri. I went back to get my cameras, and I don't know if you can see, but on this log there are 6 rocks.
Mm-hmm.
Weren't there the day before. There's one rock that is an arrow, and then there's 4 little rocks behind it. My partner has some physical issues, and he couldn't go down there, so he stayed in the parking lot while we went down in this gully where we had an event. At the other end of the log is a rock by itself. That's my partner who was there but wasn't there. And the 5 rocks over here is me and the 4 people that I was leading on the expedition.
Yep.
They appeared overnight. When I went back to get my camera, they were there. It could be circumstance, people that go out in nature and they're the nature lovers, and they'll stack rocks and pay homage to the nature gods, and people that love you see rock stacks every now and then.
Yep.
But this was like during COVID. I left at 2:00 in the afternoon. We went back the next morning at 8:00. So being October, you had about a 4-hour window where there was daylight to do it. It spoke to me. It's not a coincidence. They were letting me know that they knew I was the one that was there the year before.
Mm-hmm.
Is that just you have to wrap your head around that. Like, well, that could be anything. Well, yeah, it could, but it's not.
Yeah.
And that is when my wife was seeing the orb,
Blue orb.
and it all just, you know, someone will go, well, people do that. Anybody can stack a rock. Anybody can do that. Well, of course, anybody can, but the number, it's numerology, it's serendipity, it's synchronicity.
Yes.
It's like they were telling me. And since that time, that's when some weirdness has been happening here in the house.
Mhm.
Is it tied together? I'm certainly considering the possibility. Because, it just, oh my God. And so that was the catalyst to write the book. It was only going to be about that. And then all these people started calling me from the first book. And I'm going, okay, here I go.
Yeah.
Because I'm onto something. It's
Yeah.
bizarre.
Your work.
They knew it was me, and they knew it was my partner. And on another log was 2 rocks by themselves. Now he's kind of a short and squat guy, so they had kind of a big round rock, and then they had another smaller, skinnier rock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of tall and slender, and he's kind of short and round. The
Yeah.
rocks looked like us in rock form. You know what I mean? I mean, the body type.
Yeah.
And it was just like, gosh dang it, that is just, it's not a coincidence. I believe it was meant for me to see and find, and it was an acknowledgement.
Yes.
And maybe some of the things that are happening here in the house have been because of that interaction, me going back a year to the day of the previous expedition.
Yeah.
But, and Mike Patterson.
Yes, absolutely.
Got stuff going on.
Oh my. Mike is one of my
And
all-time
so
favorites.
this is just another tip of the iceberg. And that's why the government doesn't want to tell us about Sasquatch, because, you know what I mean? There's something else going on. If it was just a stray dog or a stray gorilla running around, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There could be a UFO ET connection. You don't know. It's so far-fetched and outlandish because we've been told that's just ridiculous. That's why nobody believes it, because we've been taught since we were embryos that none of this stuff can happen.
Yes. Yes.
It just can't. Well, they lied to us about UFOs, and they're going to be lying to us about Sasquatch till they just can't.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
And there's all kinds of weirdness going on, and it doesn't fit. And
I
so,
agree.
because you just don't know. And there's people right now that will never come forward because they've been laughed at, ridiculed, and
Right.
scorned
All the
into
time.
silence. And people have sat on this for 20, 30, 40 years. My guy in Canada, and they've gotten grief. They've lost relationships. They've lost jobs over it, cops, pilots. Stuff's going on, and they've been ridiculed into silence. Well, I'm just trying to break it. I'm trying to be a witness advocate and just get stuff out there.
Yeah.
If I look like the crazy person,
No.
okay, it's entirely possible that I'm crazy, but I'm not. But it's entirely possible.
Because this is stuff that I've been talking to Tommy about for a long time. Because as you know, Carter, I'm the paranormal investigator, and that's what I did when I got into this research. And we've been talking about it for years too, you and I. And then when I met Tommy, same thing. We're all talking about all this and how it's all interrelated, and it's just craziness, truly. But yet it works. It fits together.
There has to be. There is a correlation. There has to be a correlation.
Yep. Absolutely.
Somewhere. Now, my only theory of escape is, do these creatures have these skill sets because we have assigned these skill sets to them because we can't explain their existence, or do they really have the skill sets, and what they appear to be doing, they are actually doing? When they say they vanish in front of my face, I'm looking at it and it just vanished. Well, did you blink? And in that blink, it went. Can it bend light with its hair follicles? Can it, refract? can they change their vibrational frequencies? Can they do some of that? You know, how many dimensions do they say? Well, 4, you know, height, weight, height, distance, and depth, and time. Those are our 4 dimensions, you know. Well, science will speculate on 11 to 21 dimensions.
Yep.
You know, and so if they can slip a portal, if that's, of course, that's beyond our common man like me knowledge base, but you know, I get it. You know, I've seen Star Trek. You know, but you know what I mean.
Beam me up,
if they can do those things, or make us think they can do them, so they can get away, what are they doing to us to make us think they're doing that? Is it mind speak, telepathy, hypnosis of some type, infrasound? You know. So there's just too many questions that are not answered by the flesh and blood theory. That's the whole reason behind these books.
We'll do the ending. So Carter, thanks for being on He Said, She Said, Part 1. We will do this again. And Tommy, thanks for everything. Awesome stuff.
My pleasure.
I can barely hear him. But get that book and read it.
We will.
You do have the first one, right?
No, I don't. I don't think. No, I know, right?
Oh God, you're fired.
When the lightning comes down, it's gonna burn this whole